fallen, and I can't get up.
This frail old lady is the Arizona Cardinals. You may be wondering how they got into this situation. Let's just say that osteoporosis might be just another injury for them to deal with, like they have over the last few seasons. I would do the whole song and dance about the glory days and hope for the future, but that requires compassion. Let us be blunt. The Cardinals are horrible. They are more embarrassing than any sex scandal that the Catholic Church could ever conceive. How many children has this organization traumatized over the years? The entire Phoenix area now deals with PTSD as a result of this team destroying their minds with teasings of glory only to give them to the Inquisitors. There was that Super Bowl you almost won with Fitz and Kurt Warner. Oh right, Santonio Holmes and a collapsing defense happened. Wait, that year you were 13-3 with the renaissance of Carson Palmer and Gatsby Hatt-Arians. That was an awesome year for you guys. And then you got blown the fuck out by the Carolina Panthers as all of their hopes and dreams hardened into stone, never to be exposed to light again. You may as well not even try to free them with jackhammers. The only offering that Arizona has been doing these past few years has been horrible, agonizing pain. Unlike Jesus on the cross, there is no resurrection on the third day. Only the 40 lashes. No need to be Pontius Pilate, you disavow them as well. The last few years before 2018 had been pretty rough. Huge expectations, only for the quarterback to fall to shit, and then the entire team falling to shit thanks to the equivalent of the Justinian Plague. Bruce Arians had enough of the situation. He wanted to spend time with his family. He had been dealing with health issues over the years. He was tired of the grind of football. Fair enough. The man did an honorable job and got the send-off he deserved with a victory over the Seahawks. It was a rather bittersweet ending. One of the greatest coaches they've had in a long time but could never finish the job. There was always a wrench or six thrown into the team's engine, robbing them of their true potential. It was a strange change of fortune as they had usually done it to themselves. This next fact may lead you to end your life. So if you have to pause to remove all sharp objects from the room, do so now. This was the best stretch in franchise history. 3 straight 10-plus win seasons. For the first time since Don Coryell was head coach in the 1970s. Otherwise, what else is this team known for? Signing a bunch of old guys. Well past their prime and given money to flock to Arizona and retire like everyone who doesn't want to go to Florida. Ownership being a cheap bunch of fucks who don't give a shit about the product on the field. There are 2 words the Bidwells have thanked the gods for. Dan Snyder. And in their usually humiliating ways, being considered as such a punchline that the world is shocked whenever they aren't in the basement. At least with the Browns, people outside their stratosphere give a shit about them. They sympathize with the fan base. When the Cardinals are good, people aren't happy, they're just surprised. It just means that hell is frozen over temporarily before it rethaws and reality is restored. Bruce's retirement may have been symbolic, but there was no denying reality. Arizona was starting over again. Despite having most of the core back, Carson Palmer chose to hang it up after another injury-riddled season. They needed to strike gold on their next head coach like they did with Arians. What they left with was another questionable hire at best. Steve Wilks, a one-year coordinator who ran a strong defense with the Panthers, but seemed like he wasn't ready for a head coaching role yet. His last head coaching gig was with Savannah State 20 years ago. He was 5-6. It's like they settled on Pittsburgh Rare with their coach. Sear the sides and leave it frozen in the middle. But hey, he's in a decent situation. The old GM and Steve Keim is still here. So he's a drunk too, huh? And remember, this is Arizona law, so it's not just a DUI. This is extreme DUI. This ain't just your ordinary DUI. This involves burning tables and barbed wire. He should have drank a few more so it could have been super extreme DUI. I mean, it's a holiday where the cops are cracking down on drunk driving. What the hell can go wrong there? Probably the same with your personnel and player decisions. The first warning sign was in the offensive coordinator Wilks brought in, Mike McCoy, a guy whose reputation had been coasting off a year in Denver that involved Peyton Manning. Before you ask, yeah, the Broncos brought him back in 2017, and his offense was so awful that he was promptly sacked. For a man who needed a strong offensive mind, he kind of failed. But it's okay, they have a new quarterback to throw to Fitz in. They brought in Sam Bradford and gave him $15 million guaranteed? Another team fooled by his tantalizing potential from 2010, I see. I mean, he's fine. Well, for the 3 games he's healthy per season. Nothing like replacing Carson Palmer with Carson Palmer. The rest of the team is a mess with a few key skill players, but abysmal depth and a terrible offensive line, but there's still hope. There always is at the start of the year. And then they get their land salted by the goddamn Washington Redskins at home. Adrian Peterson, the running back that looked like he was toast with the Cards last season, ran all over them like he was in 2008 form. Sam Bradford unfortunately did not achieve such a potential. Neither did he when the fields were resalted by the Rams. Yes, the game was in LA, that's how bad it was. They salted the earth by means of telekinesis. Get used to such massacres, for this is how the entirety of the season would go. The Arizona Cardinals are fucking terrible. They are a franchise that isn't just lost, they willingly burned their map to try and light their way past a stream. I can say with certainty that they were the worst team in the league by a country mile. Not only in terms of talent, but in preparation, execution, and situational gameplay. It wasn't just on the field either, everything was a disaster. Mike McCoy, shockingly, was fired after only 7 games. Once sacked, he probably tried sending everything up the middle, just like every running play he called. Surprisingly, he lasted longer than Bradford. If you were guessing injury, you would be wrong. The answer was that he simply sucked the life out of everything. For the crime of larceny on a laughable scale, Sam was benched by week 3 and executed after hasty trial during their bye week. He may not achieve his potential, but his bank account is sure reaching its upside. Josh Rosen, the great QB prospect they drafted, I honestly can't get a gauge on. I don't know if he was terrible because the team around him was such shit or because he was the one that was playing like shit. Josh didn't exactly help his case with the terrible decision making, but honestly, anyone would have failed in this situation. Still better than Ryan Lindley, I guess. I know Cardinals fans are going to come after me thanks to the ridiculous amount of injuries they had over the season. No, guys, you were an embarrassment long before the injury bug came after you with fury. The season was an outright disaster. Patrick Peterson demanding a trade because he was tired of the shit show and wanted to go to a real team. And then dropped his request because of probable blackmail. The worst record for the franchise since 2001. Steve Wilkes was as much of a mess as the team was, and Fitz was rotting by the day. There needed to be a scapegoat for such a colossal failure, and it turned out to be Wilkes himself. Fired after 1 season, highlighting both the ineptitude of the organization and the flaws of the Rooney Rule. Wilkes was completely unprepared for the role. He did a terrible job, but to only give him 1 year? When a guy is gone that quickly, somebody fucked up. A season should not be punted away in a glorified interview process. It gets worse thanks to the guy they replaced him with. Cliff Kingsbury, a college coach with no professional experience, led Texas Tech to a sub-500 record during his tenure and had been recently fired from the program. Apparently failing in the Big 12 and relegating to offensive coordinator at USC means jack shit if you've had coffee with Sean McVay in this day and age. The Cardinals have learned nothing. They are still trying to chase trends. A cheap imitation of an NFL team. It's all I know this team for. Remember how successful you were when you brought in all of those former Steelers? Years past their prime? You even hired some of their old coaches and coordinators. Let's be real, it's probably why you got Arians. It's why you keep bringing in all of these older players in the hopes that they have some more gas for you to siphon. It's when you thought the answer was Dennis Green.
But they are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook.
The rest of his tenure was pretty much that. I get the reasoning why they hired him. They want to make sure that Rosen isn't a total bust, but for a team with this little in terms of talent, he'd have to be Aaron Rodgers for this to work. Shit, Arizona could have Mahomes in their pocket and they'd still struggle with that bad of an O-line. I do have to ask though, why is Steve Keim still here? Wasn't he the one responsible for the terrible drafts over the past few years? Isn't he the guy that let his young talent walk away while overpaying old vets on the market? Or are the Bidwells just complacent pieces of shit fancying themselves a competent team? I'll go with the latter. I would feel bad for the Cardinals fans still out there, but are there really any left at this point? Either they left with Arians, got pissed off ages ago with the Bidwells, or are transplants and have other loyalties. There is nothing here. There is no joy, there is no optimism, there isn't even hatred. The only thing I feel bad for in this organization is Larry Fitzgerald. It's the only real accomplishment they've had over the past decade. Wasting the career of a borderline generational talent. For whatever reason, Fitz loved playing for the organization, and all you did was trot him out as a tired show pony. I weep for such a talent, a man who deserved better, but will merely rot in football purgatory alongside Calvin Johnson and Joe Thomas. Arizona doesn't need any more punishment. Their agony is eternal. Over 70 years of failure, and it seems to be continuing for many more to come. Your seat's still warm at the loser's table, Cardinals. Bruce Arians will laugh at you while he tries on more Gatsby hats in Tampa Bay. I have good news, Arizona. Larry Fitzgerald has chosen to remain a masochist in return for another round of Cardinals football. On the field, this man is a treasure and should be cherished for as long as possible. Securing your assets and keeping vital information private is vital to any successful enterprise, including your personal leisure. Let's assume that the internet is an NFL-caliber defense. There are so many weapons that can compromise your information. ISP tracking, data mining, hackers. What you need is an elite defense to snuff out any oncoming attacks. A big free agent signing you can make this offseason is with ExpressVPN. It will strengthen your defensive core with state-of-the-art encryption and the fastest speeds of any VPN on the market. ExpressVPN boasts proxies in 94 countries, apps available for every device, and incredible ease of use. One click and this baby turns into a brick wall. As many are now cutting the cord and streaming is becoming more popular by the day, the threat of malware, viruses, and region locks lurk around every corner. With ExpressVPN, I know with the utmost comfort that I will be able to avoid all of them with one click of the button, and that's why it's become a vital staple to my online arsenal. Even better, this free agent is coming cheap. Freedom and privacy can be yours for less than $7 a month. There's even a 30-day money-back guarantee if you aren't satisfied. Want more incentive? With the purchase of a 1-year package, you can get an additional 3 months free by going to expressvpn.com/utree. Click the link in the description below to sign this elite defender to your internet security team today. That's expressvpn.com/utree. Those letters also spell protection for your internet domain. That is the freedom of ExpressVPN.
Show blitz. Here they come. He gets it away and it's picked off at the goal line. There's a flag thrown on the run back. James Harrison to run it back, and Harrison is past midfield. Harrison going down the sideline. Harrison still on his feet. Harrison is going to go all the way and waiting for the official to get there. Touchdown is signaled.